Hello and welcome back to the El Diablo tutorial series. I'm Michael and this is part 7. Last time we created an auto move feature and we fixed some minor cursor and camera problems and we got rid of our messy folder structure. So the first thing we need to do is we want to set up our weapon. Just a basic setup, and we go to our weapons folder, into our heavy metal folder, and right click in the empty space, select blueprint class, and select the actor class. We type in the name heavy metal sword BP. We double click on it and open it, and we will end up with this here. Now here's a little handy trick. I don't know which direction my actor is actually facing towards. So in order to see it, we go on the Add Component on the left panel, select Arrow, and it will basically give us our red arrow down here. This means in the direction of the arrow is our forward direction. So our actor will always face towards this direction. Okay. That's good. That's a pretty neat thing to do, because if you have different objects and you don't want your meshes to face the wrong way inside a blueprint actor, you can do this by finding out which forward direction our actor actually has. So right now we know it. We click on Add Component, and this time around we type in skeletal mesh. Right click and select rename or press F2, and we call it heavy metal mesh. Compile it, save it, and now on the right panel, when we have our heavy metal mesh selected, we want to go under the mesh tab and select our skeletal mesh, our heavy metal sword mesh. Compile it and save it, and we will look at it, and it's facing in the right direction. Wonderful. So we can just delete our arrow, and we compile it and we save it. Now we are done with this actor blueprint or our sword for the time being. Close it and go now to our characters folder, tutorial car folder, and then under mesh. Double click on the tutorial car mesh skeleton, and we will have this window. One thing I wanted to mention is, if you want to switch between certain asset files, like the skeleton or the associated mesh or the associated animation or the associated animation blueprint, you can just press here and it will open the right one. So get back to the skeleton here, and I wanted to tell you another thing. Well, basically I'm working in a modeling package called Soft Image. It is not produced anymore, but it has a certain bug. If I import my meshes outside from Soft Image, it can happen that my skinning information gets lost and my rig is only half complete or half skinned. I don't know what it causes. I have no clue, but the only way to get rid of it is to create the first side of my rig and then duplicate it at the end when I know I'm done onto the other side. I can't duplicate it anymore or it will break my skeleton. Why do I tell you this? That's because I have a weird name convention down here. The first thing is here, I call them normally like spine and right shoulder. This little R is short for right. Right shoulder, right upper arm, right lower arm, right hand, and so on. And I just mean the right side when we are facing the mesh from the front. So if we have the front perspective, the right hand or the generally the right things or the right side of the rig is on this side. Now let's get to the weird naming convention. When we go down, we will experience something called right shoulder 1 and right breast 1 and right upper arm 1. And that's basically because I mirrored my right side to the left and I can't change anything or it will break my rig. And that's a bug, but well, I know what these things are and what they are representing, but I wanted to give you an insight too, so you know why I named it right shoulder 1, right upper arm 1, right lower arm 1. And this basically just means with these ones that it is referencing the left side. I have also some thing here like right little 4, right little 5, right little 6, and these are basically fingers. I just shortened them. Okay, so let's continue. We want to have our sword on the left side, on this side. So we type in right hand and we want to use the right hand 1 because it's our left side. So right click on right hand 1, select add socket and type in weapon socket. When we press enter, it will vanish, but that's because we are searching something and it has not it's not called right hand or anything in the anything similarly, so it will basically vanish out of our search result. But if you search again, you can find it under weapon socket. Click on it and then we have our diamond shaped object here, which we can scale, rotate and translate into any direction. But I want to know where my sword mesh will end up. So to ensure that it has the right scale and the right rotation and the right translation, I will right click on the weapon socket, go to add preview asset and select my heavy metal mesh. This will spawn our mesh in as a preview asset. Now we can scale it, rotate it and translate it. So first press R or this button here to scale it on all axes down, like this. Then we will rotate it into the right direction with the E key or this button here in the X-axis around 90 degrees. And our sword blade is already facing the right direction, so we only need to translate it. Now you might notice something. Our camera is way too fast. So a thing you can do is just go up here on the camera speed and just drag it down to something slower. And we can better manipulate our rotation and translating aspect. So just get a little bit closer, scale it a little bit. I can't do anything about this culling. That's because my mesh is rather small. It was an oversight of me, so sorry for that. And we deselect it. Okay, it's not at the right location. So we select it again and drag it in a little bit, and it's still not enough, and we deselect it, still not enough, and okay, this is okay. Maybe a little bit farther out. That's okay. Now, it isn't really in the right rotation. So click on the weapon socket, disable the snapping feature up here, and we can freely rotate it to the right rotation. Like this maybe? Yeah. Enable snapping again and translate downwards. So it actually is in her head. Maybe a little bit upwards. And a little bit outwards. So like this. And move it a little bit outwards. Like this. Yeah. This should do. Okay. Just save it and type in our search bar up here. Our weapon not our weapon socket, but go to the default skeleton view, go down and look for the heavy metal mesh preview only under the weapon socket. Right click on it and delete it. Now we will have the right rotation, translation and scaling. So save it and close all of these. And now we go back to the El Diablo content folder, then to characters, then to tutorial car 1, and then into the mesh folder. Back again into the tutorial car 1 folder and open up the El Diablo car blueprint. There's literally nothing in here, and if you have nothing in here except these two nodes, you did all things right. So we need to spawn our sword somehow. So we right click, type in spawn actor from class, and what this essentially does is it spawns an actor from a certain selection you can select here. So we click on the class here and select the class Heavy Metal Sword BP. Now we have a pin called transform, but what in God's name is spawn transform? Well, it's basically a combination of translation rotation, and scaling. So if I would drag out and create a transform, you could put in a location, a rotation, and a scale, and it would combine it into this orange colored pin and use it as something called a transform. That's basically what a transform is. Okay, but we already have a transform and we set up a weapon socket. So we can use the transform from it and we will basically end up with the same result. So right click, then type in get socket, socket name, and it will basically be under skin mesh and it's called get socket bone name. Select this and it will automatically attach our skeletal mesh to our get socket bone name node. Because our weapon socket is in the hierarchy of our skeleton, we need to get the information from this here. So that's important. We need a reference from our skeleton. So in socket name we type in weapon socket. And we have the wrong node. Sorry for that. Delete it, drag out from our mesh component and type in get socket transform. We want to have the transform from it and not the name. That would be pretty ridiculous. So yeah, in the socket name we type in weapon socket and we have here an option called transform space. And what this basically means is that it asks us to specify the local axis or the axis to use, and we don't want to use the parent bone space axis or the component axis or the actor axis. We want to use the world axis to get our transform across, and we will put it into the spawn transform. Now the next thing is we will connect the event begin play with our spawn actor heavy metal sword BP because we want to have it spawned right at the start. We will change all these things when we have an item system and inventory and such, but for the time being we need something to test things out with. So now go to our spawn actor heavy metal sword PP, drag out from the return value and type in attach to component. Because right now, well, I will disconnect it. When I spawn it in, it will spawn, but it will not follow our character. So in order to do that, we need to attach it to our character. So we can reconnect it again. The target is already put in by our return value. And the parent we want to use is our skeletal mesh here. So connect it with our attached to component parent. And this will basically now act as a parent actor to our newly created actor here. So the next thing is, do we want to specify a socket name? And we want to use the weapon socket. So type in weapon socket. We have now 3 options here, and each applies to certain aspects like location, rotation or scale. The first thing is called keep relative, and I can show you what it actually does. So play, and it will actually spawn a kind of create a link with the offset in mind we had when we created the our sword mesh, or if we when we spawned our actor. It will basically do nothing for us. Keep relative is mostly an option you don't want to use. So then we have keep world, which means that it will keep our world coordinates. So because we spawned this here in with the RTS world coordinates, this will basically be the right one to choose. But you can also use snap to target. And snap to target just means it will directly jump to our weapon socket. And set our location or rotation or scale to our weapon socket. So that's also a very neat feature this year. But we will go with keep world, and keep world. Compile and save. Now it works. Wonderful. So yeah, that was it. I wish you a wonderful evening or day or whatever. And I hopefully see you next time. So, see ya.